In this video, we're going to be going over how to create the Part 1 Train Bodies part file. So if you haven't done so already, you're going to need to go to the plus sign and then create a part studio, and then your layout should look like this. Alright, what we are going to be doing first is kind of drawing this back end of our train. That'll just make the rest of it a little bit easier to draw. So how I like to go and draw this is the back end and then kind of go out this way and then add all the key features. So I'm going to go to sketch, and normally I would click on the front sketch, but because I'm going kind of in this direction, I'm actually going to start from this right plane. So click on right, and then unlike before where normally click on front of the cube, you're going to click on right. So the way that I like to place this in, and you might have a different style of how to make this, so if you do, that's fine, but I like to use the center point circle and start with that. The reason for that is I'm going from this as my origin right here and using this dimension up here, because you don't get a total height of your train, but you do have the radius from this center point and the height from that center point to the bottom. So I'm now going to use my dimension tool. And when you are placing this in, let me just put that back in here. So you can see that this is a diameter symbol. So we have a kind of O or zero looking thing with a slash through it. That is the symbol for diameter. So what it gives me here is the radius. So what I can actually do is type in the radius, so 2.35 and then times 2. And that will give me the full diameter of the circle. So that would be 4.7 for those of you just typing it in. All right, what I'm going to do now is use this line tool. And you want to make sure that these are nice and vertical. This one's nice and horizontal and vertical, and also connecting to there. So what I'm drawing in and doing a rough layout of this back edge right here. That's what I'm drawing in. So now I can add in my dimensions. So this right here, this bottom piece, so right here we can't see where it is, but if we go over to the other view of our train, we can see right here. If we go down these extension lines, we can see it's 2 inches, so 2. Oop, typed in the wrong number. There we go. So next I'm going to go from this corner to the center and down. Oh, apparently it doesn't want to let me shift that over. All right, I'll just move it later. So we can see that from the center, it is 1 inch. All right, so that centers it back out, and I didn't have to move the number because we can now read it. All right, and now going from our bottom line here, we could see that it's blue. As you've been probably noticing, all the black and blue lines, the blue ones are ones that can move around still, the black ones are the ones that are locked in place. Those are the ones that are fully dimensioned. So that bottom line here, dimensioning it from our origin, let's see, here we go. So that is 0.375. All right, I'm going to show you how to use a new tool, which is this trim tool. Depending on your toolbar up here, your ribbon, you might see the trim tool just right up there without having to do a drop-down menu, but if you can't find it, it's the drop-down menu next to this fillet, but if you've been using a bunch of these tools, it might show one of these other tools instead right there. So I'm going to trim off this extra, and you can see how this dimension kind of still moves around and everything, but it was pointing to the middle of kind of nowhere. If you want, you can move it over to there so you can kind of see what it's actually referring to when you go back to your drawing later if you need to. Alright, so that is our back end of our train. So I'm going to tip this just so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to extrude this piece going forward, and we need to know this dimension right here. So on this view it doesn't show us, but if we go over here, so we found this dimension, or well, this line, I'm going to take this, go down, and oh, there's the dimension that I need right there. So the depth is 1.75. So we want to make sure it's solid, new, and then there is our depth. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is draw in this next section so I can get the bulk of the train done. So I'm going to put a sketch and I'm going to put it on this surface right here, not the other one, this one right here. All right, I'm going to click on right. I am now going to click on the corner to corner rectangle. So I'm going to click here and make sure it clips in on the other side. So what I'm drawing in right now is this rectangle right here. So I need to dimension the height. So the width is done already, but the height is not. So let's see, what is the height? Going over here. You can see that it is 0.88. All right, the next thing is this circle. So I can actually line it up with the origin or put it off to the side. It's up to you. It's going to be lined up in the center eventually anyways. So I can put that in. So right now it's gray. This is why I wanted to put mine in this way. So I had mine locked onto the origin to begin with. So when it's gray like this, it's a reference dimension. So it's not one you can actually change because it's locked in. But it's just letting you know that, hey, it's actually where you want it to be. Or if you read it and it's not 1 inch and it's something else, then you know that you messed something up. But if it's black and it's something other than 1 inch, then you could just type in the number and get it to what you want it to be. All right, so now we're going to get our diameter. So let's see, where is our diameter? All right, so here, on the drawing, it shows it as a radius. So we can type that in as 0.75 times 2, because the radius times 2, it gives us our diameter. All right, we still have it blue, so what do we still need to do? Oh, we need to go from here to here. Okay, we can see that now that changed to black. So that's our last dimension. So what is it? So we go from the center and we go over and, oh, there it is right there. So it is 1.38. All right, so we can finish our sketch and we can extrude. We want to extrude this bottom portion, this top portion, and some programs grab the circle as one piece and some grab the rectangle as one piece. So you might have to do 3 clicks on your program or 2 clicks. This one, it wants you to do it in 3. All right, so our depth for this, oh, and it's add, so solid and add. Our depth for this, when we're looking at it, well, it doesn't give us just that little piece right there. It gives us the total amount, and then we could remove that back end from it. So we could do 5.5 minus, and that back end that we already drew in, so 1.75. All right, so that gives us our equation there. And now we have kind of just our base shape of our train. Now we can add in all the pieces that we need to finalize it. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in this piece right here. Okay, so I'm going to go to Sketch, I'm going to go to this surface. All right, click on Front. I am going to use, let's see, I'm going to use center point arc. Actually, before we do that, we're going to use the rectangle tool because it might be hard to see, but this arc is actually placed in slightly. It's not on the edge. So adding in that rectangle, let me just add this here so I have something to point at that's a little larger. Adding in this rectangle gives us that depth that's cut in first. All right, now I'm going to use my center point. So go to center, over, over. All right, now I'm going to add in my dimensions. So from the center point to the bottom, that is 1.75. All right, and our rectangle, our width of our rectangle right here is 1/4 inch, so 0.25. Our radius of our arc, if we go here, we could see that it is 0.5. All right, so now we can extrude. All right, this time we want to remove, and we want it to go through all because it's cutting through the whole thing. All right, so that gives us a lot of our objects. So right here would be a good time to stop and then add in all our rounds. So right now when you're looking at this, we don't have any rounds to it or fillets or anything, because when you're looking at this, you want it to be nice and like clean for you guys to read it and not have any issues with rounded edges or anything. So that's why this one has nice crisp corners instead of rounded. So we're going to use the fillet tool. All right, and we can click on our surfaces and it'll round the edges. But right here I can see that I don't have my correct number in, so I need to change that to 0.1. Let's see, did I get everything? So you can see how this section isn't actually selected, but it still shows that it was. It's because all the other sides connected to it are showing that it's rounding the edges. Oh, almost forgot the back edge here. Let's see. Yep. Everything is now highlighted. There we go. All right, so we can now click our green check mark. So now all we have left is to add in all of the holes. Oh, so that is the dimension in case you couldn't see it earlier. The hole we're going to add in first is this back one right here. So this is where the hitch peg would attach. So we're going to go to Sketch, click on this back surface to create our sketch. We're going to use the point tool. We're going to put it on the origin. This one you would normally need to dimension, but because we lined up our origin with this hole to start with, we just need to put the point on the origin. All right, green check mark. I know it looks like nothing happened whatsoever, but there's actually a point right there. We're going to use our hole tool, which if your tools are smushed like mine, is right here where the fillet one is. So hole, we're going to now click on that point. All right, so looking at this, it goes through. That's not what we want because we have a depth. So we want blind. All right, and we want, let's see, the diameter, which is the first one, to be 1/4 inch, which happens to be the default for the program, which is what we want for this one. But then our depth, on the other hand, default is 1 inch, which is not what we want. Instead, we want it to be a 1/2 inch, so 0.5. All right, so let's see, what do I have the next one? Here we go. So our next holes, I'm going to actually just flip this whole thing to this side. The reason for that is just because it lines up with this drawing a little bit better. So we're going to create a sketch on this surface, and we're going to put in 2 points. So make sure it doesn't line up right here because they're going to be shifted a little bit, so you don't want it to be lined up directly. You want it to be off. Same with the other one. You don't want it to lock in anywhere. Now we can add in our dimensions. So from this one to our very back edge, all right, we can see where this one is placed in. We can see it is 1 inch, so 1. And then our other one to the back edge, let's see, we can see that is 4.5 inches. And then this from the bottom, well, we can see that that is 1/2 inch, so 0.5. Same for the other one, so 0.5. All right, we can finish our sketch. All right, now we can add in the hole. So we're going to click on the hole tool. We're going to click on our 2 points. All right, so make sure this says through, so it cuts through the entire train. And we are going to want to change this to all right, so change it to ANSI, so ANSI, and change from clearance to tapped. All right, what tapped means is that it's threaded on the inside of the hole. So before we had another tool, I'm not sure if it'll let me do a drop down. Yep, so we have external thread. External thread puts the thread on the outside of something, but to do an internal thread, so what we're doing now, it needs to be tapped. So let's see, our size is the amount we want. The threads per inch is 20, that's what we want. All right, this we're just gonna leave as the default, and this changes according to what the hole actually ends up being. So that you could just leave as what it changed to. And then we want tap through all, so it's threading the entire piece. All right, so I know it doesn't look like anything's happening, but it is. So we can click on the green check mark. And in some programs, it'll actually throw in a graphic for different CAD programs showing you, hey, thread is placed here. This one doesn't have it, but you just kind of have to remember that there's thread in that location. All right, so next, what we're going to do is, let's see, go to our plane. We want to click on here. Let's see, I want offset. And my offset, I want it up because what I'm trying to do is put a plane right on this surface because I want to add in this hole right here. So the distance for this, because we actually need to do a calculation, is the distance from this bottom edge all the way up to here. Oh, right there. Okay, so for that, we have this little gap right here. So it is, let's see, so 1.38 minus, because we don't need this portion, 0.88. So that's in parentheses. But then we do need this portion right here. So plus 0.75. All right. So if you're trying to figure out what that is and you just want to type in the number that actually turns out to be, it's 1 1/4 inches, so 1.25. All right, so now we have a plane right on that top surface. So we can go sketch our plane 1, go to the top so we can see what we're doing. All right, we're going to put in a point. I put it a little bit off center. If you put it on center here, we're going to line it up there anyways, so that's totally fine if you clicked on that. So we're going to go from our point to our edge and over. This is 1 inch. And if you lined it up with that orangey yellow dotted line, then it's on 1 inch automatically. All right, our next one, we're going to go and dimension right here. So that is this dimension, so 0.88. All right, and from there we can now add in our hole. We got to click on our, there we go, now you can see what we're doing. So for this one, we just want it to be clearance, or you could just go to custom. Either one's fine. So we want this to be blind because we don't want to go all the way through. Let's see. Oh, I didn't move this over. There we go. So our diameter, so our first one here, is 1/2 inch. And our depth is 1/4 inch. All right. So we are almost done. The next piece that we need to do is add in these 3 holes. Oh, and the hole that we just added in, that is for the stack. All right, so the 3 holes that we're going to be adding in are for the cow catcher. We need to do sketch, click on our front face of our train, or at least what the end user would call the front face, but for us it's the right side. So we're going to place in 3 points. Make sure they don't lock in anything. This one can lock into the center because it's going to be locked into the center anyways, but when I'm placing these I like to avoid all of those dotted lines just so that I know that they're going to move around freely. So now what I'm going to do is add in the height for all of these. So for this one, let's see, we could see that it is 1/8 of an inch, which is 0.125. All right, our next one, our center one. Let's see, this one is right here. We can see that that is 0.625. All right, and our last one is the same as the first one, which is 0.125. All right, so right now I have all of the heights. Now I need the widths added in. So I'm going to add the next one. So for the first hole, let's see, where is that? So we go here, and there it is. So 0.375. And our next one is right in the center, so it's 1 inch. Yours may or may not be locked in place to start with, depending on if you put it on that dotted line or not. All right, and then our last one. Let's see if we go from here, go down, and oh, there's our number. So it is 1.625. All right, so we got all of them placed in. All of them went from blue to black. So we know they're all exactly where they should be. So now we can use the hole tool. We're going to click on our 3 holes, and we need to change the dimensions. All right, so for this, our diameter is 1/8 of an inch, so 0.125. Our depth is the same thing, so 0.125. All right, and where I'm getting those numbers, you can see it's right here. Okay, and then our bottom of the hole is going to be flat. So that's what this little symbol is showing you. What is the angle for the bottom? For this, flat. So these are just 2 typical drill bits that you might have. There's flat and then there's also custom, but we're just going to use flat. All right, so everything changed. I know these are cutting into the border here. That's proper. That's where they should be lined up. So if it's not cutting into that little edge, then you're going to want to go back to your sketch and check your dimensions. All right. Let's see. Yep. All right, so making sure we got everything in. We have all of our basic shape. We have the rounds. We have the hole for the stack, the hole for the axle pegs, the ones for the cow catcher, and the one for the hitch peg. So before you count this as done, make sure you have all of those holes placed in. If not, go back and add whatever needs to be added. But your part file is now all set, and then you can move on to the work drawing. All right, good luck.